Well, Don Topley, very good to see you again. I enjoyed doing some commentary with you during the recent World Cup. Welcome to Anything Cricket. Let's talk. I believe you're making your debut on the show.
Yes, I am, Philip. A very good afternoon to you. And I hope everyone is a little happier back in Barbados and the Caribbean following Hurricane Beryl. We were there experiencing it. We were lucky at the time, but obviously I did see some of the devastation in the south of the island and indeed on the west coast as well.
Okay, well, of course, we're always happy to have you in Barbados, but we're sorry that it had to be under such conditions. However, we are thankful that, like all of us virtually, you remain safe. There was, of course, as we know, some damage and some loss of, you know, important property, but life's spared, and of course, at the end of the day, that's very, very important. So,
Yeah, absolutely right. When you talk about it like that, sometimes cricket has to take a second place and sending best wishes to everyone over there. Hope they're okay.
very much so, very much so. But you're back now in your own environment and yet ready for the start of the test series between England and the West Indies. Now, the, the England side, or West Indies side, I should say, has not defeated England, I think, in a series there over, what, 3 decades or so now. It's been a long time since West Indies have been able to beat England in a series in England. What can West Indies do? What can, if anything, West Indies do to change that? And at the
Well,
same time, we're not scared that. What can England do to continue
well,
that?
I think England being on home soil will have a distinct advantage. I suppose the preparation for the West Indies for the impending tours or the test matches, I tend to think that they're going to rely on your seamers. Some of your seamers have been at the World Cup T20, so they're not going to have too many overs or spells in their legs. And I think that's quite important. England have chosen a squad that really, apart from the odd batter, no bowlers have been involved in the T20 World Cup. So they will have predominantly long format overs into their legs. And I think that's quite important. The West Indies, holders coming back from an injury which stopped him playing in the T20 World Cup. Alzari Joseph is in it. The Shamar Joseph, I'm interested to see if he gets selected or not. And of course, you're starting um, the next part of your test or cricket life without Desmond Haynes, who's no longer your chairman of selectors. So there's been a few changes in the West Indies board. But as for England, well, they've picked a squad for the first two tests. And obviously, it's going to be James Anderson's last test match. Interestingly, who's going to play in that? I expect to see probably Chris Wokes and Matt Potts, and then Ben Stokes will be the fourth seamer. So that's probably my guess at what will be the test bowling attack. And should they play a spinner, it would be Shoaib Bashir, probably as the sole spinner. So that's probably going to be England's uh, um, bowling lineup for next week at the at Lords, and I think Pennington will make his debut in the match, replacing James Anderson in the following test. So, listen, it will be a very much a celebration for James Anderson's career, but take nothing away from the West Indies. All of them are playing for some pride, and I expect them to try and spoil James Anderson's party.
Basball, what part is that going to be playing in this series?
Gosh, you have put me under pressure, Philip, because I am not a fan. Not at all. When everyone talks about baseball, do you know what? I'm not 100% sure that the players talk of it. but I do think the media talks about it. And so the players are asked about it. Um, I think it is an element of carefree, or they are playing the game without too much pressure. I'm not a fan of baseball. People say that we've invented or reinvented the game. Did the Australians, with Gilchrist opening the batting with their attacking batsmen, was that not a kind of baseball back then? Yeah. So, listen, we've got an interesting selection. We're going to probably open the batting with Duckett and Crawley. Will Pope get a game? I think he will. I'm not sure Dan Lawrence will play. I think he's the spare batter. I think it's going to be Joe Root will come in at 4 probably, and then you know Pope, Harry Brook. Maybe Pope might miss out, the Surrey batsman. He's not been in superb form, but I would expect Harry Brook. He, for me, is the most exciting young English batsman of the lot. And the West Indians just saw a little bit of him in the T20 World Cup. So listen, keep an eye out for him. He's exciting.
I understand there's been a lot of rain in the lead up to the tests. How is that going to affect the conditions? What sort of conditions do you expect?
Yeah, listen, I think the West Indies have experienced a little bit of off and on, or watching the covers coming off and on, whilst they've been in England. Look, Lords, the head groundsman, has announced today, which is Saturday, he's announced that in the last 24 hours, Lords alone has received 44 millimetres in 24 hours. I mean, England experiences rain, but that's some going. And let me tell you, it's not just Lords. The Oval last night didn't play their T20. Essex at Chelmsford didn't play their T20. Northampton didn't play their T20. It's really been affected in the south of England. So what you're finding, if the covers are on, the groundsman can't get on to prepare the strip. Now, Lords, you often don't look just down at Lords, you look up, because the atmosphere and the clouds and the condition of the skies does affect Lords. But the mere fact is the head groundsman hasn't been able to work on his strip, which means if he hasn't been able to work, maybe even if we have a dry day Tuesday before Wednesday, he just can't do the preparation and the time on the strip. So expect the wicket to be a little underprepared, which means it might help the bowlers, which for the West Indian bowlers, and Jason Holder will be very aware of this, but West Indian bowlers, you do just have to pitch the ball up. You want the batsman coming forward. Don't matter how quick you are, if you've got a wicket that does a little bit, keep the ball pitched up. Make the English batsmen drive, make them come on the front foot. That really is important. Don't bowl West Indian short lengths.
Before I put you on the spot with a prediction, your son, Reese, how has he and his teammates been adjusting since they have returned from an unsuccessful campaign in the World Cup?
Well, the most useful accessory to have is an umbrella. So since he's been back in the UK, he arrived last Monday. He was very lucky because the England boys came back in dribs and drabs. The people involved in Test cricket, they were invited to board first. And then when we came back after the semi-final, got back to Barbados on a big aeroplane full of the ICC, India, the BCCI, England. When he got off the flight in Barbados at midnight, he had a note to say he was one of 3 flying back on Sunday. So he was dead chuffed about that. And since he's been back, he's been sorting out his house and starting to prepare for Surrey in the T20, but unfortunately last night their match was rained off. He loved the West Indies. He enjoyed Antigua, Barbados, St. Lucia, and was desperately disappointed not to get over the line in the semi-final at Guyana. Sad, but India were worthy winners that day.
Is he at all involved, or to what extent is he involved in red ball cricket and maybe looking to represent
Well,
format?
he would dearly love to play red ball, but I think the West Indies players or administrators know, just like the England administrators know, how do you fit everything in today? To be a quality red ball bowler, you have to step your overs up, which could be an interesting challenge for some of your West Indian bowlers, especially those who were involved in the World Cup. You know, playing red ball takes a huge commitment and you need to play. I think he would like to, but the question he would say, how do you fit it all in? And I probably would suspect, with the knowledge of cricket that I know about, England would entertain him if he was about and if he was available. But he hasn't played red ball for 2 years. But I do know, Philip, that he is not finished with red ball. Maybe one day. But how do you fit everything in?
Well, I did promise to ask you for a bit of a prediction. 3 test matches. What's going to be the outcome?
Well, I do think there's going to be some results because I just think of the way that England adapt to Test cricket today. Look, being brutally honest, if the West Indies win a toss and stick England in and they bowl smartly with the right lengths, do you know what? You could knock us over because it could do a bit at Lords. Seriously, we're talking July, but the weather and the lack of preparation you might find it's a bit of an April-May wicket at Lords. So in that respect, West Indies could win, but I do think it'll either be 1-1 or if England win the toss and stick the West Indies in, Jimmy Anderson could have a field day. He's still bowling nicely. So I think it could be 2-0 to England or 1-1. Which way shall I go, Philip?
Well, I'll leave that to you. Whichever way you go, we're gonna want to have to invite you back. We want to invite you back again to get further thoughts, especially after the test match. We will want to hear what you have to say, regardless of the outcome.
Listen, Philip, there isn't many Englishmen, okay, seriously. I hope you don't forget this, but that your listeners would like to know that the West Indies is an Englishman's second favourite team. Seriously. So we would like to see the West Indies do well. You know what, it'll make the series brilliant if the West Indies could nip ahead and win at Lords. I hope the entire West Indies squad are excited and motivated by playing at Lords. It's a very, very special place, really is. And the crowd is good. I know we had an issue with the Australians a couple of years ago, but let me tell you, there are good, knowledgeable people, and I don't think they would begrudge a good performance by the West Indies at Lords next week. So good luck to the entire West Indies staff.
And here's hoping for a competitive and captivating test match. Thanks again, Don. Looking forward to hearing from you again during the course of the test series.
Thank you, Philip. Good evening.